Welcome!
Y saludos, amigos!
A nuestra presentación, Revenge of the Pod, presented by the Room 303 Network. We are a pop culture pod primarily focused on film and television. I'm your host, Luigi, and this is my co-host,
Jason. What's up, everybody? Dude, I'm impressed. You got it right. You got the presentation right this time.
Got him. We're also joined by a special guest today from Room 303 itself, JC Colon Mendez, Jermaine. Say hello to the audience, sir.
Yo, what it do, baby?
All right, we've got an amazing show for you guys today. As you can see, according to our title, we are going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're also going to be talking Twisted Metal and a few things that we have been seeing and hearing from around the web, including just some things I wanted to touch on that we talked a little bit about last week. Let's get into it. Jason, how you been, man?
Oh, I've been great, dude. My family came to visit. Well, one of my sisters did with the kids before they started school on Monday. So that was cool. Shout out. They came because my cousin Tina, shout out to Tina. I don't know if she listens, but they want to give her a special shout out. She finally finished her PA school, physician assistant. She's officially a physician assistant. Been years since she's 27 now, since she was 18 in college, just grinding out in that medical school. So yeah, we're really proud of her. So that's why my sisters came to visit. I want to give a special shout out to Charlie, my niece. She's starting middle school, 6th grade. And then a huge shout out to Sebastian. It was, as you know, football season's right around the corner. And he loves to mock draft with me. Anytime I have a chance to send out mock drafts to practice for fantasy football, he jumps right in. And I was really impressed because he was talking to me while he was at my house, right? And he was just like, hey, I've been listening to Fantasy Footballers. It's one of my favorite podcasts. And he's like, yeah, I've been really like learning a lot. And I can tell that he knows what he's talking about for a kid that's in the 8th grade. I think by the time he's older, he's going to be kicking all his buddies' friends in fantasy football leagues when he joins that league. So it was very impressive. Reason why I bring that up is because Jermaine and I are going to go see that podcast live in LA. We're really excited. Oh, I'm really excited about that. So yeah, dude, it was fun, man. It was a fun weekend, dude. What about you?
Pretty quiet, man. We had ate out a few times, but that was about it. Obviously, went to go see a movie. Hung out with the family, man. Just enjoyed time with them before school starts this Wednesday. So just calm before the Wednesday. Yeah.
Oh man,
we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a good year. So pretty excited. Jermaine, how about you, man?
Says every teacher before the first day of school.
I'm excited. Oh man, fuck these kids.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna be complaining in 2 weeks on the pod, but no, dude, I've been good.
Should I still be teaching? Is this the future I want for myself and my family?
No, I have been good. My birthday is tomorrow, so I, took a little time this weekend to celebrate that. Don't really celebrate my birthday. Not a big birthday guy. It was just never a big deal.
Same.
For me growing up. Like my parents, like once I hit like 11 or 12 and I was pretty self-sufficient, my parents never really made a big deal. But my pops just sent me my yearly birthday stipend. The cost of doing business for him. And so I had a 48-ounce tomahawk this weekend. Had some sides, got a birthday cheesecake. So
I know where you finished that with the sides and the cheesecake.
No. I also had a 24-ounce tomahawk steak left over for dinner on Sunday.
What? Okay, that makes way more sense now. Yeah.
Gave the bone to my buddy's dog, Finley. So
very nice. Well, happy early birthday, brother. Happy early birthday.
Appreciate it.
All right. I'm actually going to let you guys kind of riff on this next thing that I wanted to bring up on the pod. Just so those of you know, U.S. women's national team lost to Sweden According to most headlines, it's a historic loss, along with, I think it was the Netherlands, Canada, Germany, and Brazil that were all also taken out. So this is an interesting Women's World Cup. What do you guys think about all this?
I mean, as far as the U.S. women's, if I'm being completely honest, really disappointing and to me personally, kind of upsetting. They started off hot, obviously beating Vietnam 3-0 as they should, but ended up tying with the Netherlands and tying with Portugal in the group stage, and just barely qualifying to the round of 16. And it's kind of upsetting because, yes, don't get me wrong, if you pass by the group stage, and it's actually a huge feat to a lot of teams, worth celebrating. But we're talking about the U.S. women's who are, ranked one, the favorites to win it, celebrating after a tie and just kind of struggling with the teams that they played. I mean, I don't know how good the Netherlands and Portugal are. I'm sure they're good teams, but it's just kind of, I don't know. You just kind of felt that a vibe from what I've heard. I mean, a lot of the games were late at 2 a.m., so I couldn't catch a lot of them, but I saw a lot of the highlights, and it was just kind of disappointing. So they got a lot of backlash for that. And then they ended up going into extra time with Sweden in the round of 16, and then going to shootouts where they had the lead, and their leader, Megan Rapinoe, misses that shot, and then she ends up laughing after she misses that shot, which is not a good look, right? And then after that, they missed I think 3 more in a row after she missed, and they ended up losing. Obviously, they ended up breaking down crying, so you hate to see that, but it was just very disappointing for the expectations for the U.S. team. As far as the other team goes, that's crazy. I mean, it happens, right? Sometimes a team gets hot and you get knocked out, and it happens. But just their performance overall for the U.S. women, it was just kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, when you're the favorites going into the tournament and you only score 1 goal against teams not named Vietnam, it's a bad look. The coaching failed to adapt. The players failed to adapt. Injuries decimated the midfield, which was going to bring questions into, the validity of the forwards moving forward. Played excellent defense versus the other teams. Only gave up the 1 goal to the Netherlands, right? A very, very good team the Netherlands are. But, this is kind of widely expected for me. They're coming out of an unprecedented run of dominance, right? And it is incredibly difficult to sustain, even with, the population and the entire engine that's behind the U.S. women's national team. So when you dominate at that level, eventually the rest of the field has to catch up to you. And that's what's happened at this World Cup, as Luigi evidenced with the other departures, right? But now it actually presents a fascinating, dichotomy that's going into the, quarterfinals and beyond. That presents England, Spain, and you got to go with the Australia as well as some of the favorites coming out of this. So it'll be very interesting. A part of me is very, very bummed, right? Because I always root for the U.S. women's national team, but they've made that impossible to do. This is one of the first Women's World Cups where I'm not actively watching. But they made their bed. They have to lie in it. And I'll be curious to see where they come out of this Women's World Cup, right? They did this whole equal pay thing despite them not actually generating money to pay people with. So I'll be curious to see if this World Cup actually makes the revenue to at least cover just the pot. And I won't be surprised if there's some nice massaging of the numbers for them to make this look good for the women's World Cup as a whole. It's incredibly disappointing with the time difference as well, right? Because they suck themselves out of an entire market in the U.S. No one's really going to be plugged in to watch it live. But I'll tell you what, walking around the United States for the U.S. men's national team World Cup and just being in any and every city. I was in Seattle for one of the games. I was here in San Diego, and then I was I think that was it. Actually, I was in El Paso as well, bro.
Yeah.
Walking around the U.S. when the women's national team is playing is night and day compared to the U.S. men's national team. And that just tells you why you aren't getting paid money. It's economics, right? If you generate money, you're going to get paid $68 million a year. See Anthony Davis, right? If you don't generate money, you ain't going to get paid. See Room 303 currently as presented. So the whole thing is pretty disappointing, but I have hope and excitement for the future. Rose Lavelle will get healthy. R.I.P. Julie Ertz, who retired. Megan Rapinoe is retiring as well. We do have Trinity Rodman and is it Alexis Smith as our flanking wingers? We just need to figure out who's going to score goals. We need to figure out who's going to coach this team and bring them into a more sustainable brand of football. And that's really where we're going to go. Players are going to get healthy, and the U.S. women should be right back in it in 4 years. And, hopefully we're there rooting for them. Hopefully the sport continues to grow, but my expectations for that are limited.
I think you kind of said it pretty well. Them losing in this type of fashion, maybe it kind of is a good sign, because it's like that kind of like slap in the face. Like you kind of get hungrier after that. And it's like, all right, we know what happened 4 years ago. They might have that hunger to like really perform well. So I hope they get that drive in them, who's ever in that squad. So yeah,
no longer the fat cats, no longer the hunted. You know what I mean? So yes, I promise you, the U.S. women's national team will come back and they'll be perfectly fine.
Like the redeem team, as Luigi said in our chat. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. It sounds like definitely think they can compete. They just it sounds like they were taken off guard by the competition.
So they were incredibly disrespectful going into this World Cup. Like they were almost like their bravado is tight. I love shit talking, so I'm not like gonna say that's bad or anything. But hey, man, if you're gonna be talking that, you know what I mean. You're gonna be talking that. You got to show up and back it up, because if not, we're gonna make fun of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not one, not two, not three, not four.
I like that.
I'm just saying we're gonna make fun of you, but no, injuries absolutely played a factor. Inability to score goals, which is the U.S. men's national team problem, played a factor. And that's a shit bounce in the penalty kicks. That goalie was all over that shot. You know what I mean? She was all over that shot.
That was crazy, dude.
So for it to just get over the line, that, by just a smidge is like, hey, man, it took almost an act of God to beat you. And I think it'll be a blessing in disguise for the younger players who now have to, lift this back up.
And carry that on, yep.
And, they'll have to rebuild the image as well of, U.S. women's soccer, because it's taken a beating with just how they've handled themselves. If you're going to represent America, for you to be flagrant and say that America sucks and this, that, and the other, when we have it so well here compared to the rest of the world, it's very disappointing to hear from that. As well as, it's your opinion. That's perfectly fine. But then don't represent the United States of America if you really think we're that terrible.
Yeah, it seems paradoxical, hypocritical, if you will.
And that's how they operate. So, but I think we're good with the U.S. women's national team. Looking forward to 2027.
All right, I did want to cover a couple of things. Have you guys yet watched Secret Wars?
2 episodes.
I'm not excited to watch it, no.
All right, so I wanted to give an update because I didn't give some information last week. I was hoping you'd watched it, Jermaine. But I did want to say my rating for it is a 4.9. I feel like that's mostly because the CGI was better than I've seen it in a lot of MCU shows. And the actors are at fault for how bad this show was. Like, they acted their asses off. The only one that I could say like kind of phoned it in a little bit, but it was only because she was given the same emotions throughout almost every scene, was Amelia Clark. Uh, Again, I am excited where they're going to take her character. We'll see how that goes. I don't want to say too much since you guys have not watched it, but I thought Don Cheadle was fantastic. The guy that plays the main villain, I forget his name, British actor. He also came out in the Barbie movie. Amazing.
I liked him.
Yeah,
Who didn't come out in the Barbie movie?
that's
That's
good point. And I just found it interesting that after all that, I still will only give it a 4.9. I'll touch more on it when you watch it, Jason. But yeah, it's not great. But I did want to give you guys the rating and give the actors their props because it's really not on them.
Luigi, his name is Kingsley Benadier.
Benadier. There we go. Olivia Colman too did an amazing job. Kingsley Benadier, Olivia Colman, Amelia Clark. All of them did great jobs on acting. It was just, I felt like the writing was some of the worst writing I've seen in a Marvel movie. It did not capture my attention throughout the show. And what I will say is that the choices the show makes, here's what it does. What it does is that it makes you think that there are high stakes and that this could be an MCU altering show. But then it gets too scared to actually follow through on any of them and immediately retcons every choice they make throughout the show.
No, not comics.
Not the comics?
Not comic books. Comic books never retcon.
Yeah, I know. That was something that I was talking about before. I was like, I don't know if that'll translate well to screen, and to me, it doesn't. It really does. Like, I can't buy in the way I would. It just feels so cheap. It feels cheapened. You know what I mean?
What the problem is it didn't seem like they actually had a plan for Secret Invasion, right? Where in comics, Michael Bendis had been writing Avengers for. Actually, I don't know if he was writing it for 7 years prior, but they were planting seeds in the Avengers and all of the Marvel comics leading up to Secret Invasion, right? So there was hints at what could possibly be, who could possibly be, right? So if you play Secret Invasion like that, then it can work. But they didn't have any plans for this. This was hastily thrown together. They wanted to use Don Cheadle, Nick Fury, etc., and accent the Skrulls some more. So I heard they ruined Super Skrull, so I that's kind of what made me out on the show as a whole. But
I mean, just watch it and let me know what you think.
I will. You know I will. It's Marvel. I'll watch it because
I'll end up watching it too.
I really want to know what you guys think of this show because I have opinions. I just don't want to go all in yet.
It's all good.
Okay, so let me move on. Barbie has reached $1 billion. Margot Robbie actually predicted this in her pitch to Warner Brothers. It's the fastest movie Warner Brothers has ever made to get to $1 billion. Oppenheimer is at $553 million, which is pretty impressive in its own right. TMNT is at $43 million domestic and $51 million worldwide. I think that'll be bigger. I think it is a staggered release, if I am not mistaken. It was predicted to finish at 30, but it's clearly going over that. The Meg has similar numbers domestically, Meg 2, but it's making $142 million worldwide. And let me tell you guys, a movie does not have to be good to make that money because it got 0% initially on Rotten Tomatoes.
No way.
It's sitting at 29%. It's gotten 29% up since its premiere.
Okay, but that's 20. It's at 28 now by critic score. Audience score is 72%. You know, I don't really trust the critic score.
Fair enough. I've just never seen such a low score for a movie, but it did come up to 29 to 30%, which leaves you to think like, oh, how do the audiences feel? And I did, again, something that I did talk about last week, but I wanted to add in a couple of thoughts and see what you, Jason, and what you, Jermaine, since you weren't here with us last week, think. Was my question is, do you guys think Barbenheimer was a bit of a harbinger for the beginning of the end, one might say, for the superhero era in cinema? Jason said this last week, and it keeps coming to my mind. Like, since he said it, I was like, yeah, I've been thinking about that. Like, is this a sign that we're going in a different direction? Aaron Hammond called it the "Smells Like Teen Spirit" comparison for the metal 80s metal era ending with Nirvana coming out to end the superhero era. Very ironic there.
I see J-Man shaking his head.
What do you think, man?
I'm so sick of this take. People are so desperate to kill superhero movies because they think superhero movies are what's wrong with cinema, right? It's always the artsy fartsies look down on you, the Meryl Streeps, right, who think they're better than you because I'm an actor, a thespian, I perform in film. This has nothing to do with that.
I do true.
This has everything to do with the fact that movie theaters will probably be dead by the end of the decade. So this is what people aren't talking about, right? Everyone wants to take the shot at superhero films. Everything is flopping. Every movie with big critical acclaim right now is flopping in theaters, right? They're not writing good stories. So people aren't tuning in for it because they know the studio's bullshit. They take intellectual properties that people know and love and they twist them to fit whatever political agenda they have, whether it be right or left, right? Tell me how Barbie is now a feminist icon? Wasn't Barbie an unrealistic expectation pressed upon girls when we were growing up that they can't ever live up to Barbies because if you extrapolate the measurements, because God forbid that's what we do with action figures. If you extrapolate the measurements, no one could ever have that. And now this film is a feminist icon, woke ideology. Let's take a shot at the patriarchy. Cool. If that's what you really think is the problem, go ahead, do it. It's wildly hypocritical to use this doll of all dolls.
Right? Have you seen the movie?
No, I have not.
Oh, you should watch the movie.
Yeah, I'll watch it when it comes to streaming. I'm not paying money to watch it.
Address exactly what you're talking about, actually.
I know, and that's what's so funny because they realize how fucking full of shit they are, right? Movies overall, as a whole, have been underperforming, right? Because it's multifold. During COVID, studios were building up streaming platforms. What did they do? They wrote contracts with movie theaters that prevents those movies from sitting in cinema for 2, 3, 4, 6 months. Now the movie comes out and you, the consumer, know you can wait 40 days and have it digitally.
Yeah, that's all the new deals.
What's the incentive to go to the cinema?
Well, here's the thing. Even before COVID, like, let's take COVID out of the picture. It sped up the timetable, but the realistic thing to look at here was that cinema has been going down since before COVID.
Right.
Most big tentpole films are the only ones that have been making the money, right? They are the ones, including Avengers Endgame, right? Or the ones holding up cinemas sometimes for the year. They're the ones bringing in the money. Ironically, it does feel like, to me, they always like to blame superhero movies for this. I do feel like this is the end of an era for me. I think we're going to get like tier 2 versions of superhero films from here on, but I don't think it has to do with superhero movies ending the cinema. Ending the world of cinema. I think that cinema is going that way, right?
I don't think superhero movies, there's an issue with that. You tell a good superhero story, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a superhero movie. You tell a good superhero movie, people show up in droves. They give you the billions that you're looking for. But therein lies the problem. What?
Build it, and they will come.
Exactly. You write good stories, people tune in.
Has been an issue with superhero films. Jason, what do you think of the state of superhero films right now? For me, oversaturation is an issue because DC is not coming out with good stuff, and the shows are becoming very questionable.
Yeah, I just think they're trying to push out as much content as they can. Definitely slow it down. Like Jermaine was saying, there has been some great superhero films. Like he said, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the Spider-Man Across the Universe. Yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah.
Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah, like those are some of my favorite films. That might be still, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's my favorite Spider-Man film, but yeah, there is some great content, and it's just maybe the lack of writing and stuff. So,
and here's the thing. This is why I say, and this is why sorry, I don't mean to keep stepping on you, but this is why I say I don't think it's superhero movies. I think it's cinema as a whole. When Bob Iger comes out and says we're actively looking to offload properties, Disney, right, lost $800 million. When Bob Iger comes out and says that, you know you messed up, right? Here's the other thing that nobody's talking about. They had a strike a few years ago that held up writing. And now, for the first time since the 60s, the on-screen talent and the off-screen talent have decided to boycott at the same time. All the movies that you were expecting for next year, all the television show you were expecting for next year, all the movies you were expecting in 2025, and so on and so forth, have all now had their legs effectively cut out from underneath them. When you are looking at movie times next year, this time next year, you're going to have almost no new property to go see.
Yeah.
Right? Here's the thing. AMC wasn't supposed to make it through COVID. If it wasn't for a subreddit and the power of the internet, AMC would already be closed. And that was peak superhero earning, right? The only movies who were getting people to show up, the only ones. And then here's the other thing. And this is how it's so pretentious seeing these people calling for the death of the superhero. If the death of the superhero occurs, the money these studios make from these tent poles, the billions and billions, you cannot make your pet films anymore. You can't make the ones that get people awards. You can't make the ones that get people nominated, because guess what? Those studios no longer have the appetite to lose money. So when people sit here and speak to the death of the superhero movie, it's going to come. Just like the Westerns, it's going to come. Stop trying to blame what is actually making money for the rest of your faults. Creativity, bankruptcy and creativity is absolute enemy number one, right? They don't make new properties. They take properties that our generation already likes, slap a new coat of paint on it, put some ideological agenda behind it, and then shovel it down your throats and try to tell you, why don't you like these stories? They're good, even though they no longer fit the spirit of the characters. Star Wars no longer fits the spirit of the characters with the new trilogy. But I'm the asshole for saying it's a bad movie because there's a female lead and a black lead. Right?
Yeah, so it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the writing.
It has nothing to do with Daisy Ridley, phenomenal actress. It has nothing to do with John Boyega, phenomenal actress. But the minute you speak out against it, you're the asshole, you're the douchebag, you're this, you're the problem. You know who's not the problem? Me, because I actually go to the movie theaters. The people who complain about it don't go see movies in theaters anymore, right? The community of watching a film together and everyone sharing that experience, much like all community aspects in life, is being ripped away from people by the government, and they're trying to tell you it's for your best. They're trying to tell you it's for your best. Anywhere you can go and break bread and share time and meet and congregate with people of like minds who enjoy the same things, and then they're going to tell you it's the superhero's fault. The superheroes who put a boom in cinema.
I don't know if it's a government thing. I think it would be more of a corporate thing, but yeah.
No, it's the same thing with COVID. What's the first thing they did? They took away all your ability to meet with your loved ones, right? And that's what's crazy, because people can't survive without contact. That's why suicide rates are sky high. That's why, especially in young men are just killing themselves regularly now. Why? Because if they try to talk to a girl, they're creeps, right? So therefore, they don't even try. Therefore, they're always by themselves. Therefore, suicide rates skyrocket, anxiety, depression. You know what builds the ability to fight anxiety and depression? Going out in the sun. What they tell you to do? They didn't let you go in the sun. They didn't let you meet with anybody that you loved, because those are the things that can instill positive behaviors in you. But instead, now everyone has anxieties through the roof. I don't know a single person who doesn't talk about their anxiety.
I have anxiety.
And what's crazy is, imagine thinking our family, our parents, didn't have anxiety, because that's how our generation walks around. Sometimes you got to suck it up, but we can't tell that to anybody now. You're insensitive.
I would say that our parents' generation just didn't. They white knuckled it, so that would be. I mean, I watch them and they're like,
bro, we all know
people in that generation.
Yeah,
like, we should probably do breathing exercises.
Yeah, dog. Hey, come here. Let me give you a hug, because touching is super important. That's the first thing they tell you with your baby, right? Skin to skin, skin to skin, right? Touch is so important. And all that shit's being ripped away, and people are sitting here because they love the comfort of their own home, right? If anyone is faced with the adversity of being in the sun from our generation now and below, it's the worst thing that you could ever do to them. How dare I be hot?
Yeah, the addition to that would have to be the fact that we're just pushing more and more into a virtual world, right? Like, I mean, Facebook with Meta, we're looking at. I mean, I watch kids interact on a regular basis, and if you don't make them put their electronics away, they will be in front of those electronics with people around, just together, like with a sense of community. But there's little socialization. It's very it's very separated, yet they want to be together while doing it. It's a weird dynamic. I'm not really sure how that's going to affect these kids going forward socially, because I will have to say, like, it's nothing I've ever seen. I don't know how people are going to react.
And yeah, that's what's so fun. Like, to me, the end of an era is, it's not superheroes, it's movies. It's the end of an era. The end of every city having their own cinema where everyone can go. That's coming to an end. Like, all of that's coming to an end. The streaming services are their own worst nightmare of their own creation.
I feel like I can almost agree with you in the terms of how many cinemas will no longer exist. But I feel like cities, it'll be like going to a Broadway show, or it'll be like going to a musical. Well, same thing, Broadway show. Right?
It could also be
locations where you can go, but it's not going to be the number of theaters we see now.
Yeah,
be like big films. Only the big films will come out on those.
But like, I guarantee you, there's a movie theater in Plano, Texas. If this all comes to fruition, that movie theater is closed. Right? Parkland, Texas, closed. Those small cities, those movie theaters are going to be the first casualties. Sure, if you live in Houston, if you live in Phoenix, if you live in New York City, you're going to have cinemas. But the days of a cinema being everywhere for everyone to watch the films is no longer. It's no longer. This strike right here, I'm calling it right now, and I will happily be wrong. This strike right here, with COVID and the changing in people's consumption, how they consume movies, right? Because it used to be, if you didn't see a movie in theater, you didn't see that movie for like a year and a half before it came out on VHS. You remember that?
Yeah.
Bro, and so that's where we're approaching again, because people would much rather sit on their couch. And so Call a spade a spade. If you're going to blame superhero movies, point out everything else that this self-destructive Hollywood industry has done, right? The fact that they're trying to steal image and likeness from actors after one use is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. You can't make a career off that.
That's crazy.
I don't see how they. It doesn't make sense to me.
And when's this strike ending?
No idea.
And that's the thing. You look at these corporations, and they've made these choices, right? They made the push for streaming. They made the push for 45-day windows on movies. They refused to make concessions to writers and actors, and may I say to crews, like the crews on a film set. Those people still don't get paid much, and I don't think they're allowed to unionize. So they're taking everything they can. They're squeezing everything they can out of the film industry, and then people are wondering, like, why is the film industry ending? No, you're right. It's not superhero movies. I think superhero movies and shows are definitely going downhill, in my opinion. Right
if
now. The
story is good, people love them. The problem is the people who make the stories don't fuck with the characters, and then they have whatever the higher ups want you to put into their thing, whether it be this political thing or this political thing, right and left, whatever they want you to put in it, you put in it, and then it's no longer that thing anymore, and it's this amalgamation of just corruption, and that's exactly what you see in Hollywood. I mean, we're gonna have to rewatch old shows to keep this podcast going, because that strike I don't see the strike ending anytime soon.
As we said, we will keep you guys updated on some rewatchables. Jason, what do you think of Marvel's recent projects, the writing on them, CGI work, audience reactions to some of these shows that we're looking at, and how Marvel plays into kind of whether or not you see it as a progression or regression of the superhero film industry?
Honestly, after listening to Jermaine, I think he really valid points, man. Honestly, I didn't really see it that way, if I'm being completely honest. I think they can still do well if they get the right writing crew, and if they make a really well story and take their time with it, man, instead of just trying to push everything out. I think they could take their time
instead of a corporate machine.
Instead of a machine, right? Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, right? If something goes well and it's making you money, why not keep pushing more product out? And as a consumer, we blindly just take advantage of it. Like, I'm gonna go. Shout out to Jermaine again for going to the movie theater every Thursday. I know. Don't bother Jermaine on Thursday because he has the AMC pass and he has free ticket. Well, he pays a monthly fee and he's there every Thursday. And I think that's awesome. Going to the movies, I think it's a wonderful experience. And to actually really think that we may lose that, it's kind of a bummer. It really is. I was thinking about it. I was like, whoa. Remember when we used to be so excited when it's completely different, but when a CD came out, bands coming out, like we used to go out to buy a CD, maybe get a vinyl for it. Now it's just all streaming. It's crazy.
Same trajectory. Great.
Yeah, go like that. And then now, like you said, like maybe consumers like myself and you, we like collecting vinyls, and that's vintage. So is cinema going to be vintage for us? Something to think about. So, but yeah, no, Jermaine, great points, Luigi. Definitely want to take some trailers. What do you? I got nothing for us, but Luigi, you got a few stuff for us, right?
All right, Jermaine, I know you're gonna be excited about this one because I know you're a gamer. They're coming out with another season of Castlevania. It's Castlevania Nocturne. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Castlevania, but I do know that it follows a family through different generations and different time periods. This one will focus on Victor Belmont. It looks fantastic. The animation is just as good as the original. Coming out September 28th. You got any information for us on Castlevania?
I do not a huge Castlevania guy. The games were always fun, but it's not something that immediately grabbed me when I was a kid. I was more of a, like a Vector Man, Final Fantasy kind of guy rather than Castlevania. I know there's been many iterations of Castlevania, and that's the other thing. There's just been so many. I'm like out at this point. Like, I love that the fans have their anime. I love they have their games. Everyone gets super jacked for it. That gets me excited. I love seeing people passionate about their stuff. This is just, I could only be the one nerd to rule them all for so many things. Like, I cannot have every knowledge on everything. I know everyone expects me to, but no, this is a severe gap.
If you have not watched the anime, the anime for the original
on Netflix, right?
Yes, highly recommend it. Just as a show, it's one of the better shows that I've seen.
Yeah, I actually want to. I do want to watch that one, but right now I want to get into Jujutsu Kaisen, especially since teaser for Mutant Mayhem. I'll point out a little something that was in Mutant Mayhem for that. So.
Okay, sweet.
Okay. Yeah, they do talk anime in that one. Go ahead, Jason.
Luigi, yeah, I don't know if we talked about this, but I want to bring it up. I can't remember, so I just want to bring it up. That trailer for One Piece on Netflix came out, the live action. I don't know if you guys are One Piece fans. Never seen One Piece, but I don't know if we talked about it, Luigi.
We talked about it very briefly.
Okay, yeah.
I have talked to a few fans, and they say it's looking more and more accurate the more information they get from the trailer.
That's what I wanted to know. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I've only seen like the first 20 episodes of One Piece. Didn't grab me as a kid, but that's just because I was a kid. You know what I mean?
Isn't there fucking over 1,000 episodes too?
Oh yeah, it's been around. So I was watching One Piece in like the 90s. In early 2000s. You remember they had not
Dragon Ball
XD. You remember Disney XD?
Oh yeah.
They had that One Piece was being shown on that, I believe. Or
was it Toonami?
No, it wasn't. It was, man, I think it was like on CW, but it was like they had Muscle Man as well on that. They had Sonic as well on that.
I remember Sonic.
They had like all these like more obscure characters, and I was like, yo, this is sick. But I remember watching that, and I saw the trailer, and from what I remember from the show, I was like, holy crap. And the casting, the character designs, like the props, the sets, I was like, look, I may not watch One Piece, the anime, but I might give this show a shot.
Right? It looks like a big production. And see, as we were talking about how we're worried about cinema, you want to see the kinds of things come out. Even if it's on television, you want to see that the industry is still pumping out great things like that. So I'm probably going to check it out. I got a brother-in-law who's like 700 episodes in. He's really dedicated right now, so I know he's excited about it too.
I can't even finish Shippuden. Yeah, that's the key. The writing needs to be good. I can't even finish Shippuden. I'm in the middle of Shippuden. Like, there's too many anime episodes, and there's so much filler in everything.
Oh, yeah. They love those slice of life episodes where they do nothing.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you guys another one that I think you guys are going to be interested in. Do you guys remember The Warriors? Jermaine, you remember the film The Warriors? I think it's 70s. Yeah, 70s.
Warriors. Yes, dude. That's like a movie that just reminds me of my pops. One of those movies that you just watch with your dad. Terminator 2, The Warriors, Fallen by there's a lot of movies that remind me of my dad, and that's that era. Fucking love The Warriors.
So Lin-Manuel Miranda is adapting Saul Urich's 1965 novel, right, and the thriller that we've seen, The Warriors, into a musical, which makes sense to me. That looks really easy to turn into a musical. It's very much, I mean, if you don't know what The Warriors is, it paints a picture of a city overtaken by crime, which during that time period, very much so, that was New York. New York was very much overtaken by crime. And the story centers around all these little gangs throughout the city that this group has to encounter, trying to make it back home to Coney Island. I'd love to see an extension of this world. I'm still holding out for a show that could kind of bring out more of that the Warriors world. So definitely excited about that. Lin-Manuel Miranda's working on it too. Mi gente, you know what's up. Jermaine, you know what's up.
He's gotten kind of annoying lately, but I do like him.
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about this because, like, as much as I love The Warrior, and it's like a classic gangster film, like not gangster, but it's more action packed than anything. And the last thing I want to see is a stage musical of the Warriors, and it kind of just, I don't want to see them like dancing with, like, you know, like I'm starting to think about Bad, Michael Jackson Bad. You know?
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like, what's the movie that came out that Steven Spielberg directed?
West Side Story.
West Side Story. You know how they fight, but they're like dancing. Like, I don't know if I want to see that for the Warriors, man.
You're gonna get that. That's what it's.
Hate to break it for.
I know, like that's what I'm seeing. I'm like, no, it's gonna ruin it for me. But hey, and then they're gonna start rapping out of nowhere because, you know, Lin-Manuel loves to fucking rap. So
I won't hate that. You won't hate that.
Here's what we were just talking about, right? Like, instead of writing something new,
they're taking old IP and just recycling.
Yes, exactly.
And here's the problem is, don't pick up IP if you aren't going to make it better.
And if you're not a fan either, like
going to films, this isn't going to theaters. It's only going to Broadway. So I don't know exactly what he's going to do with it.
I don't like. Is there a big like Broadway musical group that has a clamoring for the Warriors? Is there like a niche? I'm not like.
I think it's just.
I just picture this.
That like if you watch Broadway shows, like there's just a lot of those. Oh,
that's what I picture happening. And that's gonna completely ruin it for me, dude.
I think
you get this kind of content if you're watching this on YouTube, guys. And
yeah, Jason just did a dance for us. I think there's a lot of Broadway shows that could fit into this kind of category more and more, actually. So I don't know. They just they mess around with anything on Broadway. But yes, it is going to be that, Jason. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Last thing I wanted to mention: X-Men '97 poster. Magneto has a new design. Have you guys seen this?
No. Do you have it? Can you share it?
Photos look good. I'd have to look it back up. So give me a second.
All right. Yeah, I mean, don't worry about it if that's the case.
Oh,
I'm trying to stay away from everything X-Men '97.
Yeah, it's just a poster.
No information from me. None. I don't. I'm like, leave it alone. I'll watch it when it comes out. I don't want any spoilers. I don't want to know.
This pod must be the worst for you then.
No, I definitely always fast forward X-Men '97 stuff. Like, I don't watch trailers anymore. I feel like they've gotten, so aggressive at giving everything away that I don't watch it. And if you've seen enough like films and understand how people write archetypes, flow, stuff like that,
you know what'll happen.
You can pick stuff up that you don't want to know. So I try to watch one and then I keep it pushing.
Yeah, I'll say that trailers have always been that terrible. That's been my argument in our chats. Like, they've always been like that. The only difference is now it's easy to avoid. Bro, you watch some old trailers, go to Vudu and watch old trailers, and they practically play the movie. Play the entirety of the film, and you're like, what is happening right now?
That didn't start happening until we were in high school.
No, go check them out.
I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you.
Myself in my collection from the 80s, the 70s, the 90s, where you look at the preview and you're like, they're playing out the entire movie here. What is happening?
I'm telling you, it's not that bad as it is now. It's not. Like, they show you everyone in movies now, including people that aren't billed or cast or anything like that. So anything that could be of any surprise is in the trailers now.
That's true. They didn't have back then. They didn't have as many like gimmicky things like that, right? Where there were surprise characters, and there were all these things that were like exciting that were going to happen. No, there wasn't as much shock and awe as you see now. So it plays a bigger role in that sense to me.
They would release one trailer for most of these movies. Now you get 5, 6, 7 for these releases coming out now. I'm telling you, since Christian Bale's Batman.
There's a format. You get the teaser, you get the second trailer, and you get the final trailer. There's a clear format.
Not anymore. There's like 4 or 5 trailers that come out for all huge blockbuster movies now. Like 5 different iterations. You can go in and on YouTube, and it's like Guardians of the Galaxy, trailer 1, trailer 2, trailer. And then they also have the teaser trailer, which is no longer a teaser. It's the teaser trailer is a full-fledged trailer now, which is no longer a teaser. It is out of hand, bro.
And if you're talking about Marvel, you also get the end credits scene.
But sure, Jason.
Yeah, and if you're talking about Marvel, you also get the end credit scene of another movie, which is technically a teaser. Plus, you get 2 teaser trailers. Yeah, I don't know.
Their stingers can be a lot of fun, and other times you're like, you could probably save this.
Didn't need to see that, bro.
I'm with Jermaine on this.
What they did was Civil War, where you don't really know what's happening in the scene. I liked that one. That one, I was like, okay, I could deal with this stinger because I'm very much asking questions more so than wondering, did they just ruin the movie for me?
Yeah. That's the thing. Now it's like, used to be, it was like in a world. And most of the trailers was like words would pop up in the middle of like screens and stuff. It'd be like a dude's voice over. You're not even hearing lines on certain scenes. Like that's how ridiculous trailers were back in the day. That's why trailers were always awesome, because it was nonsense. It was like some dude, his voice, words were always in the trailer. It was like graphics. There was never actually any scenes in these trailers. Like,
and then you watch the movie, you're thinking it's an action, it's a love movie.
And now,
here's my last pushback, guys. If you watch any 70s trailer, they will tell you the story of that movie in the trailer, and you're like, you gave me too much.
Nobody grew up watching 70s trailers, Luigi.
Bro, you're talking about the history of cinema in their trailers, like
they got better from the 70s to 80s, and 90s they hit a sweet spot, and then they start giving everything away again.
90s
I agree.
Pretty decent trailers.
When I grew up, the trailers did not give me nothing until I was about to be in high school. And that's what I grew up with. I didn't grow up in the 70s. What 70s trailers are you watching, Luigi? Just put the movie on.
I'm very picky with my older films, so I watch the trailer first. Am I going to enjoy this? I don't know.
I wish you were picky with your current films. Anyways, let's
keep it moving.
Wow. All right.
TV land.
Moving into TV land. Jason, you have a few things you watched. I'm gonna let you hit this one real quick.
Yeah, sweet. So I just want to give it just an update. I finally finished watching Ted Lasso, all 3 seasons, and I'm kind of sad it's over, dude. It was a feel good show. I loved it. I know I talked about it in previous episodes. So I just want to kind of, because I was midway through season 3, so I'm kind of a little upset that Ted Lasso and Rebecca didn't end up together. A little upset.
That didn't need to happen.
I felt like they were better as friends. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they're definitely better as friends, but they knew it because they teased us in one of those episodes. He wakes up and like he's like, "Oh, did they what?" You know, but turns out it wasn't that case. I love the whole Diamond Dog aspect. Diamond Dogs, love that shit. I like Nathan's redemption. You know, we hate him, and then he gets a redemption. He finds. I don't know. I feel like they all had their own like story of growth, which within each character, and I feel like they took their time with every character. Yes, some of these like stories were kind of like silly and like it's more comedic, and they paid a lot of homage to a lot of pop culture references. Some that Jamie understood that I didn't even know about because of her shows that she's watched, and some of the sports stuff that I watched that she didn't even know about. Like I know I talked about this already, but we talked about practice, right, with AI. I thought that was cool.
That was a great
she did not get that joke. I had to press pause and then show her a TikTok of AI in that press conference. Just things like that. It was overall, it was fun. I love Ted Lasso. I kind of wish it would have gone another season, but I think they ended it how it should have. You know,
it did end the way it should, but it leaves you wanting a lot more. That's for sure.
Definitely. I will say that.
I very much enjoyed. I think I still think the first 2 seasons are better, but I still enjoyed watching the 3rd season. You know what I mean? Like it was still worth the watch. It still gave you the feel good almost like sitcom-y television show feeling that you get from it.
Yeah, man, it was great. Season 1 was definitely probably my favorite. I will agree with that. Although sticking through it and then just like falling in love with Jamie Tart afterwards was awesome to see. And yeah, series finale. Yeah, everyone gets back to pretty much everyone is like positive with the ending.
You called it. You called it.
What?
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso going back home to be with his son. I mean, it's only right. His son misses him. Jamie Tart actually building a relationship back up with his dad at the end. His dad, you see that he checks himself into rehab. So that's really cool. Rebecca finding true love at the end. Seeing that guy, that Dutch guy. I forgot what Keely. I forgot what happens with her. And then Roy Kent too. Like just the growth with him. Just growth within every character. Everyone had a great closure. So I love that. There was like no like loose ends that were like wondering about like what happened. They tied all of them up for us. So
they even tell you what happens with Beard, right? He stays. He loves Britain. He loves his girl.
Gets married. Yeah.
Gets married. That's right. Tell us a little bit. We're going to move forward since we've talked a little bit of Ted Lasso before. Tell us a little bit about Licorice Pizza. We wanted to cover that when we first started the pod. We just never got to it. So I know you saw it. So what did you think of it? Because I still have not seen that.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up. So Licorice Pizza, the film came out in 2021. It was nominated for Best Picture, Academy Award winner, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, known for directing There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights, one of their main movies. I know you guys know those movies. So there's some other lists, but I don't think I've seen any of those, so that's why I didn't mention them. So it had, and the cast. It's not, Bradley Cooper, Sean Penn, Maya Rudolph, John C. Reilly, the band, Haim, were all in it, the whole band. Alana was one of the love interests. You had Benny Safdie. He was in Oppenheimer. He was the physician, the scientist working on the H bomb. So he was in it. And you got Coop Hoffman. He was the male love interest. I can see why I got nominated for best film and stuff like that. I just don't know, man. It just didn't catch my attention. I think the acting was good. I think the cinematography was pretty good, but the plot and the characters, I didn't care for them. And then the whole time I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, where's the plot going? Where, like, I just didn't really move. There was just different sequences.
Like a film.
Yeah, you're just like, what's going on? And then there was times where Jamie and I both caught this. They were just running randomly. Like, I don't know. They were just like running, like, and like running towards each other, running away from each other. I don't know where they were going with this. Like, I'm trying to like be like Thomas and like trying to figure out like, where's the cinema? Like, there's like, what's the word? Yeah, where's the symbolism and stuff like that? And I just couldn't find any. Bradley Cooper was dope, but like, was his character in that scene like necessary? No, I don't think it was. Like the one with Sean Penn, yeah, I can agree because Alana was using him to make the other love interest jealous. But it was just.
I think all these actors came out in this movie. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's crazy. And again, acting performance was great. Cinematography wasn't bad. Like you kind of like, I can see where, the shots and stuff like that. I was like, okay, I like this. But like, did I like the movie? Overall, man, I'd probably give it like a 4.8, dude. Like it just wasn't for me. I don't recommend anyone watching this film.
Fair enough. I can't add anything to it. I just know it was a coming of age story. That's all I knew about it. And I knew that I think the drummer from Haim is in it. That's about as far as that went for me. So good to know. 4.8, you said?
Yeah, dude. I'm still trying to figure out if I liked it or not. If I'm being completely honest, I saw it yesterday, and I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess I'll just throw one thing that I did watch recently before we go into Twisted Metal. I did finally watch the critically acclaimed anime Your Name. It's got like super high ratings with critics and audiences. I think it came out last year or the year before. This is a love story. It has some sci-fi elements. I don't want to go too much into it. It has a lot of emotional depth. And as I mentioned, it's like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was interesting. The story does, in fact, go somewhere. You see why you're watching the movie very quickly, and you see how the pieces that don't make sense within the film easily fit together once you see the full picture. Highly recommend it. Once again, Your Name. It is I guess this would be like a prestige anime film. Made pretty good money in Japan. Those don't release. They don't release theatrically, and if they do, here anyway, in other countries they release theatrically, but here, anime still hasn't hit cinema or theaters the way that it has in other parts of the world yet. But I definitely recommend watching it. And if you've got a significant other that is okay with anime, they will definitely enjoy watching it with you.
Luigi, I'm glad you said that. Like how you said it just ties in. Licorice Pizza did not do that. And I forgot one more key point that really kind of just was uneasy for me. The love interest, the boy was 15 years old and the girl was 25. And I was just like, what? Like it's just, and it was based in 1970. I don't know. It just really right away just kind of not a good
off. Yeah, not great. Not great. But okay. So before we get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I do want to talk Twisted Metal. Jason, you and I have both finished this show. Jermaine is going to sit out on this one. He's still catching up on Twisted Metal, so he's going to sit out on this one, guys. But we're going to go into Twisted Metal and all the things that we enjoyed about it, some interesting things that we found out about it.
I do want to ask Jermaine before we start ranting off. Jermaine, did you play Twisted Metal growing up?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, awesome. All right, because I'm going to say some points that I really loved about it. I was just like super excited. So I thought it was, okay, sweet.
Yeah, please give the video game aspect because I actually never got to play that game. I always heard good things about it. So yeah, I definitely want you to bring that in. So let's get into it. We start the show with John Doe, played by Anthony Mackie, who is just, he brings as much charisma to his character as he possibly can in every scene. I thought Quiet, which is played by Stephanie Beatriz, did an amazing job. She's such an asshole through the whole thing. Agent Stone is an interesting portrayal of a man, what would be the word?
Lust for power.
He's got a lust for power, but he's also internally a very weak man.
Weak man.
He's not truly strong the way he portrays himself, which is why he's so obsessed with having power, because he feels inadequate. You can see it throughout the show. Sweet Tooth, I hear that it's the way the game shows an unhinged psychopath, like who you cannot take your eyes off of, and he's got some great one-liners. So that was a lot of fun. The Preacher was a lot of fun to watch. I thought all the characters were really interesting to see.
I agree, man. I will say if I'm going to give like some critiques at some of these parts, a little cheesy at times, which is okay. For what the show is cool. Yeah. And yes, the girl's name is Quiet, played by Beatrice. I thought she'd be quiet a few more episodes. Like it kind of feels like she just started talking like super fast. Like she was supposed to be a mute and not talk at all, and then she just started talking a lot more. I don't know. It just,
I think episode 4, right?
It felt too fast. I would say so. But I don't know. Maybe. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't necessarily run into that, but that's an interesting point.
Yeah, just to me, like if you're gonna name a person Quiet, I feel like maybe we're not gonna hear her talk. Like I didn't feel that like that point where it's like, oh shoot, she spoke. It was more like, oh, that was quick. She spoke. You know, like, and I get it. They were about to kill off John, but like at that point, we didn't know if she even cared for him at all. I think it should have been more at a point where they were building a relationship, him talking to her, and like she's starting to get comfortable with him. So like at a very point where like he definitely was about to get killed off in later episodes, I think it would have been more impactful if she were then to speak. That's just me though. I I guess that's like my only critique about this show, but I really enjoyed it. I think Sweet Tooth was the best part of this series. Will Arnett did amazing as the voice actor. It was played by another actor, obviously, because Will Arnett can't get that buff.
Well, Joe did some pretty good like body movements to align with what Will Arnett said.
Yeah, like it makes you wonder if they like got together and like worked it out, or did he? Yeah, like prior to like the filming, like Will Arnett, like, hey, this is how I'm gonna approach Sweet Tooth, you know. But yes, JC, Quiet is not a character. It was just kind of a one-off, but they did bring in a lot of characters like the Granny, the Preacher, Agent Stone. John Doe is obviously another main character. They bring in Raven, they bring in Dollface. There's
right at the end.
Yeah, at the very end, which is crazy. And my favorite part was that they teased a lot of different other playable characters, like Axel, the guy that drives, probably my least favorite character to drive with. He was the one that like had the two big ass wheels and was tied up to it like that. I think his name was Axel or Marcus Kane or some shit like that. They tease a lot of the one that rides the motorcycle. I forgot what his name was.
Red Skull?
With the Red Skull. Yeah, they teased
cool.
him.
I was like, oh, who's that guy?
Yeah. So they tease, and that tournament type of style with Calypso, they tease Calypso. We see him for like a split second voice actor, but he's the one that is gonna. He at the very end, we find out that there's going to be a tournament. So it's kind of leaning towards. Remember, Luigi, I told you I wanted it to be Twisted Metal Black, and it looks like they're leaning towards Twisted Metal Black. So I'm very excited. That was probably my favorite storyline in the games. JC, they didn't tease Mr. Grimm, at least from what I saw, but they teased a lot of characters. And my favorite part was in the very final episode. They teased like the video game where there was like a bunch of cars fighting with each other, because that's what the whole video game was about, right? It wasn't just a one. I mean, there was some one-on-ones, but in this one, like you get to see everyone fighting with each other. You see explosions. Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Yeah, that final fight scene was fantastic. I thought it was a lot of fun. I wanted to go over some of the culture of the show. So obviously, I think they did this on purpose because they wanted to keep it during the time period where Twisted Metal was like at its height. But all you hear throughout the show is like late 90s, well, mid to late 90s and early 2000s music, clothing styles, everything before the world went to shit, and it ended in 2002. That was when everything stopped, 2002. So that was pretty interesting to watch. Just total off the wall mayhem in every episode, lots of comedy. This is not Last of Us. You know what I mean? It's not that kind of prestige TV. It's just fun. And I enjoyed it. I mean, not everything has to be Last of Us, right? Not everything has to be like, I have to sit down and watch every second of this so I don't miss a part of the story. Like it's a show that you want to put on to have a good time and unwind. And it's a very good example of that. Jason, did you catch why the world was destroyed?
Nuclear holocaust, right? The AI started taking over or some shit, right?
Yeah, an electromagnetic pulse destroyed all technology too. I'm guessing it was AI that may have triggered it, but yes, a nuclear plant explodes as well. So they have these Watkins storms because the Watkins power plant in Missouri explodes. So you have these crazy violent storms where electricity just hits almost everywhere, and that's fun to watch in one of the episodes. The world building they did in Jason, what did you think of that? Like milkmen, walled cities, the crazy cars. Is this in the video games, or they just like built a world around what they had in the games?
Yeah, I can't remember about like milkmen and just like different cities like closing themselves off, where the rich were, still living on themselves while the poor, not the poor, but like just left for dead, just like out trying to live in this apocalyptic world. So I like the way that how they built that world. Very interesting. You're like, why do we need these cars with weapons in the first place? Now like, hey, you need delivery guys to do this, and people, in an apocalyptic world, Some people are dark, and their dark side shows. So the fact that they're going to have this tournament at the end where you have the best drivers and not just delivering to do care packages and currency is very different. It's just very interesting. I like how they did that, and just gave a more depth of these characters, these playable characters that we've had growing up in the Twisted Metal games. Like, yeah, you know these characters, and I think that's why I like Twisted Metal Black, because you got some backstory to these characters. But I think this show just kind of gives it a little bit more depth into these characters, a little bit more on the comedic side, versus Twisted Metal Black was a little bit more on the dark side, but still keeping true to the characters and them trying to figure out who they are. And in Twisted Metal Black, they say, hey, if you win this tournament, you get whatever you want, whatever your biggest desire is. And I thought that was pretty cool at the end that they told us there's this tournament that Calypso is creating that if you win, you get your ever most wish desire. So I was like, oh shit, teasing Twisted Metal Black. So excited. So
yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't know a whole lot about Twisted Metal Black, but could you tell our audience a little bit about what we know about the walled cities?
Yeah, again, it shows how dark people can be. Although it looks like nice and bright on the inside of these hidden cities and walls, San Francisco, Orange County. Turns out it's not so great on the inside unless you have the power. We find out Quiet's storyline. She pretty much begged her brother, like, hey, we see it's an apocalyptic world. They were growing up in the avocado fields. Like, hey, if we have a contract with the OC city, is if we work for 4 years, grind it out, pretty much work like slaves, we'll be able to live within those inner walls and be free and have a beach house. Turns out that wasn't the case. They just pretty much became slaves. And if you weren't a white person, or they just treated Hispanics and whoever they had, treated them into slaves. And it turns out, like, if you disagreed with your master, they would chop off your ear, cut off your finger, and use it as jewelry. That's pretty disgusting. So
that's taken from things that they used to do historically. God, I can't remember which. I don't think it was the South, but I know there were societies in which, like, if you had slaves, and you took pieces of them and had them, like, it was a sign of your wealth. Like, to show, I have this many slaves. And in general, that was true in the South, but they would take body parts. Like, God, I'll have to get back to you on which culture that was. But that's something that actually happened. And I found it interesting. They just throw that in the show. I was like, dang, that's intense. People just walking around with fingers on their necklace and then just like ears. Yeah, the show gets wild. It is not for the faint of heart. That's for sure. I wanted to give a shout out to some of the music, Jason. Like, you get to hear tons and tons of 90s and 2000s music. Like, if I'm not mistaken, they had that "Do You Think You're Better Off Alone?" That song reminds me of my childhood because I'm a millennial. So I was like, oh my God, they played Portishead, they played Hanson, they played so many different, Party Hard by Andrew WK during the Milkman fight scene with Bloody Mary. I was like, man, I'm going back in time right now. This is amazing.
Dude, my favorite part was Cisco, the thong song. I know we talked about it. She got guys like what? And it was just the intro to Sweet Tooth was dope. Speaking of Sweet Tooth, you remember when I spoke about, like, when we saw the first 2 episodes, I was kind of upset that Sweet Tooth didn't have the flaming hair. But I was like, but how are you going to make that realistic? In the last fight scene, he's like, I'm going to be like, all right, it's an all-out brawl. Fucking puts a kerosene on his head, tells Stu to light it up for him, and you get that iconic Sweet Tooth flaming hair. Just shows how psychotic he really is.
When you go to Blackfield Asylum and you see his dead parents in a cell, I was like, oh, shit.
Well, not only that, you get his backstory when he was a kid before the world turned to shit. And he was a young actor, and he was jealous of another actor, which we thought was another little boy. He's like, he's getting all my scenes. Turns out it was a dog that was his co-actor. And doesn't end well for the dog because he gets really
well for the dog. Line. You're like, oh, shit. If you guys know what we're talking about.
Man, and as they're recording the show, he just goes and they don't show him killing the dog, but you get the blood splatter and stuff. And it was like, this guy, he's been insane since he was a kid. So, oh man.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of the story, but we'll quickly run through. Sweet Tooth gets bored of giving his performances in Vegas, so he starts traveling around, and he starts taking out all of these lawmen outposts, which is driving Agent Stone crazy, which leads to like him actually being in the final fight scene, which I really enjoyed, because I was like, they introduced this character, he's got to be in that final fight scene. Sure
How
enough.
they tied it in,
Yeah. What do you think is going to happen with that tournament? You said it leads to Twisted Metal Black. Tell me more. What does this mean?
So in Twisted Metal Black, it really depends, because you can play any character, and if you play their character, it follows their storyline, and you learn a lot more about that character. So why I really like Twisted Metal Black is because, all right, you play a character and you want to know their storyline, you have to play as that character. So you want to beat the game with every character. So you can get all their and how it turns out for them. So there's multiple ways this show can end. If in favor of John Doe, maybe in favor of Sweet Tooth, maybe you don't know. It just really depends on who wins the tournament. So
yeah, and now that John Doe realized San Francisco is not what he thought it's going to be, he's definitely going to be wanting to just get out of this tournament.
Which is funny, because honestly, when I was playing Twisted Metal Black, John Doe was my least favorite player to play with. I
mean, even as the show progressed, you're like, they did a lot with this character, but I can imagine in a 90s, early 2000s video game, this was probably like the basic character that you start with.
Yeah. Mr. Grimm was probably one of my favorites. I like Sweet Tooth a lot, but like I didn't like really playing as Sweet Tooth. I don't know, like his attributes were just not my favorite. I think Mr. Grimm was fast and agile, so I liked using him a lot. So yeah, it's just very interesting, like the types of vehicles that they use, because you're just like, whoa, that's one of the vehicles. Remember that pink car? What is it called? The ones that carry coffins. Hearse. Yeah. There's in one of the games there's a pink hearse, so it's kind of cool that they showed that pink hearse in the game in the show too. So like you just see a lot of cars like, oh shit, I remember that. So it was cool, man. All in all, I feel like they did a lot of good, just like little teases. There could have been a lot more, like Jermaine was saying. They're not teasing a lot of stuff, but I'm hoping maybe in the next season. I hope they do another season, because I was pretty invested right after the last one. I was like, I don't know if I'll watch it again, but then they kind of brought everything together. So I was like, okay, yeah, they got me. I'll watch season 2 now. So
I'll go as far as to say I'll rewatch season 1. Gabby has not watched it, and I'm more than willing to watch it again. I'm like, this was fun. Like again, it was just fun. Yeah. Did I have fun watching it? Yes, I had fun watching it. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for something that's gonna captivate us, and it definitely did. Again, if you're someone who's only into prestige television, no, this is not for you. But for those of you who enjoy watching, yeah, friend of the pod, Tom. But for those of you who just enjoy watching, things that'll entertain you, something that you can put on even while you are doing other activities, it will be that kind of show.
I really think Jamie would have enjoyed it, but I showed her the trailer, and then she saw Sweet Tooth. Not a fan of clowns. She hates horror, so she's like, that's going to give me nightmares. I'm out. And I honestly think she would have enjoyed it if it wasn't for that. 7.8 for me, honestly. Maybe 7.9. Yeah, it was enjoyable because I knew what this was. I wasn't expecting it to be like, oh, this is a great show. It was just like, I knew what it was going into.
Y'all rate high though.
Yeah,
y'all really do be rating real high though. Some of these,
hey,
it's based off my entertainment, how I felt about it. But,
y'all be throwing out 9s way too often. I'm always like, 9.
I haven't thrown out a 9. Not many.
2 9s. No, 3 9s. 3 9s. Yeah,
I'm just
and
saying.
I don't do any of them.
No, hey, good for you calling us out, JC. Sometimes it does change. I want to look back, and I was like, all right, I need to get an Excel spreadsheet of how we score these things.
Yeah,
what you should do is initial.
On a rubric.
What you could do. Sorry, I didn't hear you, Luigi. What was that?
We're going to be working on a rubric. It's still in the works.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You do initial, second, and then final.
I like
average to 3, and then that's your actual score. But 7-8 for Twisted Metal.
Yeah,
I'm here for it. I love Twisted Metal. No, look, dude. Look, everything you've said, I've literally texted my roommate. Bro, we got to watch Twisted Metal. It's pulling from my favorite game. Like, you teased a bunch of the characters that I was curious, like who was in it. So, like Crazy 8, Junkyard Dog, Warthog, Roadkill. Those are all. Bro, I can't wait. I can't wait. And now that I know there's a second season. And Calypso's in it, and they're actually going to do right with the strike and everything. Probably won't be a second season, but bro, because it's like Mortal Kombat but Demolition Derby.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
right.
I would probably give it a 7.5. Rewatchable. It's rewatchable. I think that's what gave it above a 7 for me. Because overall, if you just watch the show. The story, all of that, I'd probably give it around a 6, but the actors do a really good job, and its rewatchability are what made me push it to a 7.5. I would recommend to a lot of people. The only thing is, if you're squeamish, don't watch this show.
Which is what you want in a Twisted Metal show.
I would assume so. Last thing I wanted to say, in the final fight scene, Jermaine, you may not want to hear this, but in the final fight scene, we see that it looks like Sweet Tooth may be killed. But if you're someone who watches a lot of television, you know that he didn't die. And sure enough, they give you a Sweet Tooth stinger at the end. And I was very happy to see he's going to be coming back with a vengeance in the second season.
You know what's funny? I knew it was coming too. I knew he was going to pop up, and it got me that jump scare got me. I was like, oh shit.
No, it worked. But without further ado, let's jump into what our main topic is for the day. We're going to go into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Now, Jason, I know you haven't watched it, so Jason's going to sit out of this one for us. But
boo! You got a podcast to run. Boo!
Sorry, man. I had family come over, dude, and it was just.
Should have taken your nephews, Doug.
They saw
it. It came out on Monday. No excuses.
Yeah, me and Jermaine are going to riff on this one a little bit. So let's jump into it. Jermaine, what did you think of the movie?
Oh, dude, fantastic. And it's one of those movies like you guys like to throw around now, rewatchables all the time. It's one of those movies that's going to change and get better with every time you watch it, because there's so many like hidden like one-liners or just like hidden nostalgic nods to some of like the 80s stuff that they introduce, and then they blend that with some of the 2000s, not 2000s, but like more of the recent stuff as well. So it's going to be fun. Like if you like Easter egg hunting, this movie, I mean, good Lord.
I heard. I mean, listen, I've seen a good amount of Ninja Turtles, but from what I'm hearing, there's tons and tons of Easter eggs. And Jermaine, I know you know this, but for the audience, there are two characters that come out in it pretty immediately, Bebop and Rocksteady. Fun fact about Bebop and Rocksteady, they actually first did not premiere in the comics. So Ninja Turtles started out as a black and white comic that was very violent, very gritty. They did not come out in this comic at all. They premiered in the first episode of the 1987 show that we 90s kids came to know and love. And they were just recurring villains that came out throughout the show. It was cool to see them in it again. I loved watching them come out in it. I'm glad that they're going to be a part of this new story.
Yeah, they were actually developed much like Harley Quinn for the television show, and then, brought back in specifically for the comics, right, by Peter Laird. And I don't know if that was Kevin Eastman at the time. might have been David Weiss who created them. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, so Kevin Eastman, Peter Laird, those are like the OGs, created the original all red bandanas for all of them, white eyes, right? That was the original like iteration of the Ninja Turtles. And and Rocksteady and Bebop are some of my brother and I's absolute favorites. So he's the Rocksteady guy. I'm the Bebop because of the cool glasses. So
John Cena is Rocksteady, man. I loved all his lines. I was like, I want to hear more from you.
That's one thing, I will say immediately is that I love that they try to get as much in as possible, and then they change the overall arching of the story. But, I felt like they tried to bring in too many characters. They tried to bring in too many characters. But they did have enough beats to spotlight the characters. And then if there's more to come out of it, it should be better. But that was maybe my one big complaint. And they absolutely ruined Ray Fillet.
Ray Fillet.
It was just he's like a surfer dude in everything that I remember from him. And he was awesome. And he was kind of douchey and arrogant. And instead he just sang his name every single time. And I'm like, okay.
I don't know much about Ray Fillet. So watching him in this, I was like, this guy's funny. All he does is say his name.
That's it.
That Post Malone coming out and just saying was
getting
Post Malone and Ray Fillet.
Yeah, he was Ray Fillet, and he got told to shut up every single time. And I was just like, I understand that you have a ton of characters, so some of them are going to get marginalized. I was a little disappointed because I was a fan of that one as a kid. I'm sure a lot of people loved him, but man. I'll tell you what. So from the outset, right, like the beginning of it, just overarching first thoughts, it was the art was very much like an artist's sketchbook, right? And it felt very kind of reminiscent of some of that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles style you see in the comics, where it's not always the sharpest edges. It's if you were submitting for a doctorate, I'm sure that art teacher would get pompous with you and hate on it. But the art lent itself to a more gritty, and that's what the Turtles are, right? They're sewer, they're street level fighters. It's all kung fu, and there's not superpowers or anything like that. So I thought the art really good.
How'd you feel about all those changes? Because there's a lot. Splinter's backstory totally changes. He is no longer Hamato Yoshi or even trained by Hamato Yoshi, right?
Right. So, yeah, I will say that it doesn't take away from it because we've seen that story, right? I don't want to see Batman's parents get killed every single Batman movie.
What?
I don't. So I don't need that. I've already seen that. I've already read that. You know how many iterations of straight up badass ninja Splinter we've had? So I don't really need that. I kind of enjoyed it. I think it was kind of what it needed for a revamp for today's generation, right? Similar to what they did in the 2012-2017 series that came out on Nickelodeon, right? They introduced it to a new generation, made them fans, and then all the merch came back and all the toys and all that other stuff. So I think they did the same thing, and I think it fits organically into what Ninja Turtles is in spirit, which is what I talked about, writing good scripts, right? But they changed it. They had fun, right? April is usually a badass, and now she's this anxiety-ridden chick, which goes to our initial conversation at the beginning, right? So she gets stage fright. So that felt organic, and it was hysterical, first of all. And speaking of Nickelodeon, it looked very reminiscent of Nickelodeon Slime, right? So, and it just kept going. And so that was cool. I felt it was organic. I was a little disappointed because I thought we were going to get a dope, strong female protagonist. And I don't feel like we quite got that, but there's more to come. She can always evolve. And I think her arc was good, but she wasn't the badass April O'Neil that I always know about.
Well, that's one thing Seth Rogen kind of wanted to stray away from with both her and the Turtles. It sounded he wanted them to feel like teenagers, like they wanted it to feel like it was their first outing, right? Because he said all the iterations he had seen, it made them, they're supposed to be teenagers, but they look like, I mean, we know they're turtles, but their bodies are like full-grown men, and then their voices are full-grown men. And I think that was the big push. They were wanting the Turtles to feel more inexperienced. And I think they used that with April O'Neil as well, because you could see like she's got the makings of old school April O'Neil, who can kick some ass and is an amazing reporter, but she hasn't really proven herself in any way, shape, or form yet.
Yeah, my thing is like the Ninja Turtles are teenagers. April O'Neil was never a teenager. So like that's why I was like, yo, we're gonna get April O'Neil. She's a human. She fits organically into that world. She's confident. She brings the Turtles along, right? Yeah. So she acts like the pseudo leader until Leo comes. It's kind of where I thought it would go. Either way, April was dope. The chick from the Bear voiced her, fantastic. Mm-hmm. The Teenage Ninja Turtles, their ability to play off of each other. They have like a line and they talk about improv a whole bunch. And then it's so funny that they talk about improv and then those characters just improv with each other. And you could just feel like it was just them trying to, like when you're with your friends and someone says something and someone else says something and everyone's in stitches, someone else said something and it just spirals. And then there's always that one comment that only 3 or 4 people hear and then they're dying laughing. That's exactly what happens when the 4 Ninja Turtles are on the screen together. Right.
And it's funny because, as you said, like when they had all the young actors go in as the Turtles, they were in the booth together, which isn't normal. But they even brought Ice Cube in to riff with them. They would bring other actors, like if they were in the scenes, they would try to do it all together, and you can feel it. It's hilarious that you mentioned that. Yeah, like they absolutely knocked it out of the park. My personal favorite was the bacon, egg, and cheese when they're all acting like a bunch of fucking idiots, and they're all bacon and cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese. Just like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, I remember being that fucking kid.
1,000%. 1,000%. And the thing about that is like, bro, she's even like, I don't think that's gonna win them over. But they didn't stop. They were having so much fun. They were doing every single instance, and she's like, that's not gonna win them over. But they didn't care because they were just being teenagers. And I was like, that was me to the T, bro. If I felt like doing something stupid, I was doing something stupid.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And my Jason, I love your question. Everyone hates my answer, but I don't care. My favorite turtle is fucking Leonardo. He's the shit. I love Leonardo. Leonardo leads, dog. Leonardo leads. Donatello does scenes, though.
Let me guess. You like cornflakes and vanilla ice cream, too.
I hate vanilla ice cream. I like Frosted Flakes, though. Don't at me.
Corn flakes, sir.
Oh, I know your favorite turtle is Leonardo, but who was your favorite turtle in this movie?
My favorite turtle in this, I still think Leonardo. Yeah, I really enjoyed him. Yeah, wow. He's such a fool. Like he wants to be a leader so badly, but he doesn't have the confidence in himself to do it. I like watching his growth. Surprisingly, I mean, I've always liked Donatello, right? Like I've always liked Donatello, but I was never a Michelangelo fan. And in this one, he was like more toned down, but still like just magnetic. And I enjoyed him more in this one than I have in a lot of other iterations of it.
Yeah, they reined his character in and it made him feel more organic, right? They didn't just force like the party dude on you. But you felt it. Like you knew like that was his character. There's only one right answer. It's Donatello.
Everybody's got different ones too. Like
my favorite's Raphael. But yeah,
Raph is hilarious in this one, dude.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's still tough, but like his toughness is funny because you're just like, man, you're fucking crazy.
They do like a montage at the beginning where everyone's like masking up and they're like showing off their weapons, and Raphael just licks his sigh, and I'm just like, why? Like, what are you doing, dude?
I think my favorite thing about Raph, which is like the opposite of Leonardo, right, is like when things get tough, Raph is like, all right, so I'm good. I did what I wanted to do. Let's just go home.
Because they hit April with the ninja star in the head, and he's like, Raph was like, well, I mean, it was her fault for being there. Let's go get some pizza.
And then at the end, where there's like this big fight monster scene, he does the same thing. He's like, well, we did what we could. You guys want to go back home, go to the sewers, just chill? It's funny, man. They all bring out the humor. They all bring it out.
What'd you think of the new character they introduced?
Which new character?
Superfly.
Superfly. Didn't they always have like a fly character in the?
So that's one thing I wanted to make sure we talked about here before, like, we get it out the way. Baxter Stockman, the dude who was Superfly's father, turns into a fly in several iterations, right? But Baxter Stockman also creates the Mousers in some iterations, right? The little like dino jaw, like robot things. Yeah, from the video games and stuff. So he creates the Mousers as well. So he died, right? And then 15 years later, right? So that's when the baby fly disappears with the rest of the mutants. And so he dies, and then Superfly is there. Superfly is kind of an amalgamation and a new character created specifically for this movie.
I really enjoyed Superfly. Real quick, R.I.P. Baxter Stockman, Giancarlo Esposito. I think he did a real good job right at the start. But I thought Ice Cube Superfly was hilarious. He was coming out with lines left and right. My personal favorite was, I'm a mollywop you. And then Donatello, as he's getting beat up, he's like, oh no, guys, he's mollywopping me. He's mollywopping me. I died, man.
When they're fighting in the van, and they messed him up. So also shout out the turtle van, right? The pizza van at the end shows up. That's an homage to the Turtle Van toys that has many iterations from when I was a kid. I remember I had the Hummer from the live action TV show. I had the Hummer with the shooting missile, and then I had the actual Turtle Van with the lid that pops off so you can sit the turtles in it. Bro, I had so many Ninja Turtle toys. And I feel like they always have a vehicle in every show or iteration. So because I guess merchandising, but so they should be getting a turtle van from this one as well. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think in the most recent iteration they did as well. Yeah, because they were all in high school in that one too, and I think even what's her name, April O'Neil is in high school in that one. By the way, I felt like there were some similarities in the Nickelodeon from the Nickelodeon show to this one, but it was enough to stray away. Shout out to Leonardo's actor. He's from San Antonio. He also did Amazing World of Gumball, so big shout out to him. And I wanted to give a shout out to the emotional beat of the movie, which they set early, which was good. When they go see Ferris Bueller's Day Off, one of my favorite movies of all time, and it just shows their desire to be accepted by the human world, right? Like you could see it in their faces, and it hits the audience. I know it hit my daughter. Like she was into it. She was like, "Oh man, they want to be with regular people." I was like, "Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do."
I have that in my notes. I have acceptance and connections. Right, like that was the main storyline the whole time. Right, everyone just wanted to be connected and they wanted to be accepted, and that was like the overarching story. So I thought they did a very good job of telling that while maintaining like the comedic timing of everything. So I thought that was pretty good.
And I could be wrong, but I think every turtle in some iteration has had a crush on April O'Neil. Like this one was Leo. Then the 2012 show was Donatello. The original 1990 movie was Raph. And I think in the 80s show, was it not Michelangelo?
It was Mikey. Yeah, I mean, I've only ever known Mikey to have a crush on April. Well, I think all of them. kind of like the
all of them.
Major Crush.
Yeah.
Just not at the same time is what I was seeing, because in the show, right, in the most recent show, it was just Donnie, but they gave him so much shit for it. And this one, it's just Leo, right? And then in the '90s movie, I just remember them giving Raph a lot of shit, and he's like, "Oh, don't talk shit to me." So
Yeah, the tub scene with Raph. They have him in the tub trying to get him to recover. I was like, okay, unnecessary love story.
He's a turtle. This ain't gonna work.
Yeah, so those are like the overarching thoughts, right? I love that they used ooze again, right?
Ooze.
And they made like a point to take a shot at the Michael Bay movies. So that was pretty tight. It was a shot because Michael Bay, they were aliens in the Michael Bay movie, right? Similar to Transformers, right? And I was just like, Michael Bay, that's Transformers. Transformers are aliens. Ninja Turtles are mutants. It says it in the name. Like, you can't. It's not Teenage Alien Ninja Turtles, right? Although fire spinoff idea.
I'd still watch it, but
so the fact, and that was one of my favorite parts from the trailer, right? Because they kept putting ooze everywhere, and the way like the kid says it, the little turtle's fingers, it just kind of rolls better. It flows better.
Ooze. You like it?
I thought that was tight. And then so they brought back the Ninja Rat.
They did real quick. Very
brief, but I remember going, "Go Ninja, go Ninja, go
Ninja!" Love that, dude.
So I was super hyped about that. They popped into Eastman High School. Shout out Kevin Eastman, one of the creators. And when they first meet April, right? I looked up and I hit Eric and I was like, "Look, Laird." It says Laird behind April. And Laird is the other creator, Peter Laird.
Well, I didn't even know.
Oh, that's sick. Okay.
So when I saw both names, my eyes lit up both times. Yeah, that'll be post movie. So I have some stuff lined up for
Okay.
I'm trying to go. I went overarching right now. I'm just thinking fun thoughts, and then I'll let us talk about the movie, and then I'll talk about where I think it's going to go from here.
Oh yeah, about that.
One thing I always thought about the whole movie was, why doesn't Donatello have like NBA goggles instead of just glasses with no ears? And so I was like, where the fuck are the glasses hanging out to? It wasn't like it to me. I thought it was funny because it's a cartoon, right? Because you know how like cartoons just have like crazy like little things that are just off. But the whole time I was thinking like, he has no ears. How are those glasses staying on? They would bob with his face. I was like, what is happening, dude? And let's see. And the last thing, shout out Jackie Chan. I love cheesy old kung fu movies, right? So when they made Jackie Chan Master Splinter, and he plays an excellent father in this movie, by the way.
Yeah,
his character moments were kind of what held the whole movie together. Without Jackie Chan as Master Splinter, I think this movie falls apart. But they start showing real life action movies, and the movie that put him on the map in America, right? Snake and the Eagle's Shadow. They show cutscenes from that, dude.
Sick.
That was like I went back and watched that Jackie Chan movie after I had watched all the other Jackie Chan movies, because I was like, oh, this is the one that put him on the map. So it's cool to see that when they were doing the training montage, and they were using like infomercial tapes that they found in like the 80s, and I was just like, yo, and I didn't know they were real things, by the way. I didn't know that. But as I'm watching, I was like, yo, I guarantee you this is a real fucking thing from the 80s.
Absolutely. It looked like it.
And I was dying laughing, bro. They're teaching like the bow staff techniques, right? Mikey's fighting. He gets his stick broken in half, and then he's all of a sudden like, and you see how like the idea for nunchucks came for his character. Like, so there was really cool beats in the movie like that. They talk about the Ninja Turtles' last name.
Oh yeah, what are their last names?
So I thought that was funny.
And shout out to the fact that they made a point to talk about how the sides are actually defensive. I was like, oh, that's a good because there's all those theories, right, about how each weapon is designed to challenge each turtle, right? And I was so glad that they threw that in there because they know that people talk about that when they talk about the turtles.
Yeah, that was I thought that was dope because Raph's weapons, like the way they're designed with the two side hooks, I'm always like, like who you stabbing like that, bro? What happens if you don't go far enough in, bro? But it's all about disarming. That's what sides are for. They're used to disarm, right? So that's why you can use it, lock, and leverage whatever weapon they have out of it. And so that was something that I looked into as a kid because it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but then when you see it, it all makes so much sense.
Yeah, and
for those of you who don't know what we're talking about here, Jermaine, can you talk about each weapon and how it's supposed to challenge each member of the team?
So Leo is the leader with the katanas, and man, I probably should have looked this up for the show, but so he's the leader with the katanas, and what essentially that one is the most balanced, right? Katanas can be offensive and defensive, and twin wielding for the most balanced of all of them, right? So exactly, and most deadly. Leo is smart, he's funny, he's strong, right? Where Raph is strong, Donatello's smart, and Mikey is funny. And that's why the katana was given to Leo, because he's supposed to be all the turtles. He's supposed to be the embodiment of all the turtles. The bow staff is given to Donnie because Donnie has the sharpest wit, right? And where people see something so benign as a walking staff or a bow staff, Donatello looks at it and sees an ever-changing world of possibilities of what he can leverage the bow staff for. And you even see it in like the particular van scene where they use it to shoot the enemies out of the van, right? By hitting on the brake. And that's why he's given the bow staff, because he can use it to the ability that no one else could, right? Also, shout out the Jujutsu Kaisen reference from earlier. He actually had a sticker on his bow staff in this movie from Jujutsu Kaisen. It's one of the characters. The size, we touched about it. Raph is all power. He's all bronze, and he wants to go and be in there. So instead of giving him an offensive weapon for him to go in and dominate the way he has to, it challenges him to think of situations in a more pragmatic approach. And right, so now he still has the strength, right? He still has the offense, but he also has the ability to take down larger opponents and use those weapons for when he's in close combats, close quarters, because that's how Raph likes to fight. And then ultimately, Mikey is an absolute space cadet, has been in every single thing, the comics, the television shows, the movies. My guy is on his own. He's OFP all the time, right? And nunchucks, if any of you have ever picked up nunchucks, they just go, right? As soon as you hold it, they just go. One flick of the wrist and the nunchucks literally can't stop. So in order for Mikey to leverage these weapons, he had to actually focus. He had to take his entire mentality and focus just on the nunchucks for him to master ninjutsu and kung fu in that way. And so that's why Splinter, ended up picking those weapons for each individual. And they actually kind of go through it. And the best part about the montage when they're showing them training is they show you why each character settles on it. And without insulting your intelligence, they don't have to tell you this is why they settled on it. But you can pick up on little bits and pieces as to because of this, he has this. And you already know what weapons they have, but they kind of, a full circle moment. But yeah. Those are the weapons. And then Splinter is a savage with all of them. And also, one of the cool things, although they didn't kind of lean into it at the end, which I thought they were going to, unless I wasn't paying attention, but he breaks his foot right?
Yeah.
And then he gets a cane. And Splinter always had the cane and the staff. And at the end of it, when he broke his foot, I was like, there it is. There it is. But I don't know if he still had the
just pointing.
and I'm not sure if he had the cane still when he was healed at the end. I'd have to rewatch the movie to remember if he had that. But if he did, that's an excellent beat of storytelling. Because I thought that was the first thing I instantly thought when I saw him down on the ground before the people started helping him.
Yeah. Just to jump into a few other points, I wanted to give a huge shout out to the musical score that blends some of the 80s style that they were made in, and then it really works with new sounds. Shout out to one of my favorite bands, 9 Inch Nails. That's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They did the score. You'll know them from other scores, like I think they did Gone Girl, they did Social Network. They are Oscar nominated, and you just see the music shine and really give the movie a certain kind of life that is just fantastic. I also thought they used rap really well, specifically in the montage that they do when they're beating up all those bad guys to figure out where to find the people who have those shipments, that fly guys.
Yeah, to find Superfly. Yeah. Like Normal, Nate, and dude, those names all cracked me up.
Yeah.
I don't remember them now off the top of my head. I remember Normal Nate because of the alliteration. I was just like, what kind of name? It was so awesome. I would love to look up if those were even in the comics. That's something I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, I'm sure they pulled them. I'm sure they did.
That's and they're also named very 80s comic books. You know what I mean? Like the names they had are very 80s comic books where like Stan Lee had set the alliteration of like Susan Storm, Reed Richards, Peter Parker, Bruce Banner, right? So he's done that like all throughout like comics, right? And that's what stuff people grew up on. So that was kind of cool. I would like to look into that. I actually don't have anything on that. But all right, I touched on we already talked about the teenage part. So if you don't have anything else, I would like to jump into post. All right. So post movie wraps up, right? For context, for you, Jason, since you didn't know, and also I'm pretty sure we just have spoilers by default disclaimer, but spoilers. Baxter Stockman is researching mutation, and 15 years prior to the events of this movie, has a falling out, and the ooze spills into the sewers, creating the mutants, and Baxter Stockman is quote unquote dead. We'll start with that there. Luigi, do you think Baxter Stockman's coming back as a Mauser?
What a theory. That would be interesting to watch. I don't know. All I know is that I think that French woman is one of the aliens, the Utroms.
Well, her name is Cynthia Utrom, so that's not like a big leap.
I didn't even realize that. Well,
yeah, so I mean, hey, you put 1 and 2 together, so at least they didn't slip that by you. But yeah, her name is Cynthia Utrom. So that was my first question. I think he comes back as a Mauser, as like a mechanized Mauser with his like intelligence in it. So that's how I think they bring Baxter Stockman back into it, which is also important because Superfly still exists.
That's true.
Right?
He's a tiny little fly.
Superfly is captured by Cynthia Utrom, right? Which Luigi expertly pointed out that she is an alien. She has it captured before Superfly mutated all those animals and created this amalgamation, like this like Godzilla type terror. He even says Godzilla in the movie a bunch of times. Before he created that, the TRCI, right? TCRI. I forgot. I don't know if you can look what TCRI stands for, Jason. I forgot what it was, like techno.
You got it right so far.
Let me see.
Yeah. Cybernetics Research Institute.
Techno-Cosmic Research Institute.
All right. So yeah, Techno-Cosmic Research Institute. I forgot what the C was for. Yes. So for 15 years, she has been failing at mutating animals. right? And then Superfly finally does it, and she captures Superfly at the end. So now that 15-year thing is no longer an issue because she has the ability to make more mutants. So that's going to play a huge key into it, right? So, and as Luigi pointed out, Cynthia Utrom is part of the Utroms, and everyone is familiar with the Utroms from Ninja Turtles because of Krang.
Okay.
Krang is an Utrom, and they actually make Super Krang, right? And I will get into some of my. I also have a things to check out portion if you're trying to expand your Ninja Turtles lore. So I'll give you some stories and some TV shows and stuff for you to check out, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But as part of that, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in 2003 had like 150 something episodes, right? And it's one of the ones that fell in this weird spot where kids didn't actually watch it. But in that, they had Utrom Shredder.
I think I remember that.
They have Utrom Shredder in that cartoon. And the fact that Shredder wasn't in this and they aren't doing the Foot Clan association thing and Shredder shows up at the end. Now we'll get into that spoiler. Another name you can have for this episode is Enter the Shredder, right? Because Shredder shows up at the end. And now we're going to get the epic showdown of Shredder versus the Ninja Turtles. I am fascinated to see if they pull from that 2003 television show and create Utrom Shredder for him to end up eventually fighting the Ninja Turtles. That's just something that I've pulled from my memory of the Ninja Turtles. I don't know if that's where they're going. Just something I think is dope to watch out for. And let's see. Talked about Super Krang, Cynthia, TCRI, the mutations. And then I asked about the return of Baxter Stockton. And then the last thing, Luigi, did you see the moving truck with the giant Triceratops on it?
No.
Okay. There's a moving truck, Jason. It's like in the first 30, 45 minutes of the movie. Okay. There is a Triceratops on the truck. Those, anthropomorphized Triceratops are actually a species called Triceratons.
Okay.
And so I think
familiar.
you should, if you look up Triceratons, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like these Triceratops, right? Armored, yeah. They carry guns and stuff. Yeah. So I wonder if the Triceratons, I don't know if they're going to be evil in this or good, but I wonder if the Triceratons are going to come into conflict with the Utroms, and the Ninja Turtles are going to be in the middle of it.
We fought them in the game that we played, the new Ninja Turtle game.
Shredder's Revenge, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the the Triceratons are dope. They're some of my favorites. I remember loving them as a kid. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, they look sick. I'm looking at it now.
All right. You were kind of frozen on my end, so I wasn't sure. You're good now. So that was the last thing I wanted to point out, the Triceratons, because when I saw the moving truck, I was like, oh, dude, I tell you, I saw so many things. Jason, keep an eye out. April O'Neil has a notebook, and she just writes all these questions down. Each of the questions is hysterical. The only one I remember, though, besides the "Do you have ears" thing, because she asks that in the movie, but I remember I turned to Eric and I was just like, "Yo," she's like questioning the psyche of Raph, because she's like, "How many people?" I think she writes like, "How many people did Raph kill?" and with his weapons or something like that. So I don't remember the whole question, but that when that notebook shows up, try to read as many as you can. They're hysterical. And that's kind of the last thing. So I think what we're going for is there might be a Krang war, right? Is what I think they might be doing. And so that takes me into things to watch out for, unless you have anything else you wanted to touch base on, Luigi.
No, that's it for me. Just a quick note about the director, I guess. Seth Rogen and the director did make sure not to overwork the animators, and they got probably some of the best animation I've seen. So treat your animators right, guys.
Also, only have them animate an hour and 35, 40-minute movie instead of. But no, absolutely. You definitely want to treat those guys right. They're doing the bulk of the lifting, you know. But so things to check out, right? So besides the OG cartoons, which started in 1987, as Luigi mentioned, I think they ran until 94.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Okay. So the OG cartoons, loved them, had them on VHSs. They had the side panels of the 90s, which was always sick. And then the OG films where we talked about Go Ninja, the one where they dress like Ronins and travel through time, probably my favorite, but might be like the least loved of all of them. And then they also had Tokar and Razor in them. Which is another awesome duo from the comics. Speaking of, and that's where I go into Sophie Campbell's run currently on Ninja Turtles has reinvigorated the series. She is doing a lot of awesome things. She introduced the fifth turtle, Jenica. Right? Jenica is a female turtle, which Luigi, I think your daughter would absolutely love this. So that's part of the stories right now. They introduced Jenica, and Jenica is actually a Chunin from Splinter's Foot Clan who dated or had a romantic relationship with Casey Jones. And she is human and becomes a turtle because of a blood transfusion from everyone's least favorite, Leonardo.
Whoa.
That's fucking
deep. Unnecessary. Unnecessary.
Yeah, so she's doing that. She also did Tokar, Razor, Bebop, and Rocksteady. So there's the Attack on the Technodrome, which might have some pieces also in the next iteration of the Turtles movie. Attack on the Technodrome is near and dear to my heart because it's amazingly tragic. But it's actually Donatello's death. So Bebop and Rocksteady get sledgehammers and beat the fuck out of Donatello, cracking his shell and killing him. So they completely obliterate his shell and kill him.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's like Attack on the Technodrome. If you want to read that storyline, that's the one you want to go check out. That's Donnie's death. Gut-wrenching for me because Donatello's always been my favorite. Let's see. I already mentioned the Krang War. And then, obviously, Eastman and Laird's OG run. And then I had the mid-2010s Nickelodeon run, which I kind of already touched on. But that kind of repopularized the Turtles for the current generation.
Very well done.
And from what I've seen, I haven't seen it all, but it was very good from what I've seen in the episodes I have seen. And then ultimately, like the last one to check out is Krang War. Just a fire story. Has the Neutronians, right? The Neutronians, the little hipsters with like the Jetsons haircut with the sharp ears. It has the Neutronians in it. It has the Utrons. I believe the Triceratons are in that. There's all kinds of stuff going on in the Krang War. Definitely want to check that out. I think, well, if I still have that pulled up for me. Yeah, I have Krang War right here. And so, yeah, that's the one where they go to, Dimension X. That's the one where they go to Dimension X. And they save the Neutrino royal family. So that's a fire storyline that you should definitely check out. And then the last thing is PlaymatesToys.com. No, we are not sponsored, but PlaymatesToys.com are doing the current iteration of the Ninja Turtle toys, and they are awesome. Do yourself a favor. If you're a big Ninja Turtle fans, go check them out. They have the little Ninja Turtles when they're in the ooze before they become big turtles. They even have those toys. They have a turtle van already. On that, they have a turtle van. They have a sewer layer. I mean, like if you were into the 90s toys with the play sets and the vans and all the opposability, these Playmates toys are outstanding. So wanted to end with that plug.
No, yeah, and they are the ones that you see throughout. I think these are the same ones that are at the stores too, right?
Yeah, they should be in stores. Absolutely, yeah. But obviously, I give the website because, but you can find them at, like, my brother has found them at Walmart, Target,
We got my
like
daughter, Michael, because before this movie, Michelangelo was her favorite. And then after this movie, it's Donnie.
Let's go!
Yeah. I wasn't hating either. I was like, Donnie's my second favorite, so I'm cool with that. But she had the nunchucks, and now she wants the staff. Yeah, these look great. They're the exact ones that you see. If you want to go straight to support the site, support the company itself, go to the site, man. Yeah, this is dope. I'm surprised you didn't mention The Last Ronin.
I briefly mentioned it. You can talk about The Last Ronin. I did. I just said the name. I figured everyone knows about The Last Ronin right now because I told everyone I could when it was coming out. So I figured everyone did the same thing.
Yeah,
also, we mentioned it that it's in the works of maybe a live action. So
yeah, we'll hope to see that. God, I did forget to mention one joke from the film, which at one point they all think they're going to die. And Donnie says, I wish I could have seen BTS IRL. And then they start trying to sing BTS for him. Fucking hilarious. It was fantastic.
Jason, you hit us up when you figure out what Splinter's biggest fear is and if he's correct or not.
All right.
As a father, his biggest fear is.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Oh man, that running joke. He's like, "What is that? What does that machine say?"
yeah. So let us know when you figure out what we're talking about. We'll plug that little spoiler. But
I think I'm gonna go this weekend for sure.
Oh yeah, until your family comes into town, and then
no. I think I'll have time this weekend. I am helping my parents move, but I think I'll have time this weekend.
It's a short movie too, so.
Jermaine, what would you rate this film?
This I would give a 7.9.
7.9.
Nice.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm still slightly higher. I'm giving it an 8.0. But yeah, I can't wait to see more of this. The animation style, the characters, the way they were developed was well done. I think the story just works fantastically. And shout out to Seth Rogen for putting some of his friends in there. You see Rose Byrne voices Leatherhead.
Leatherhead, she did a great job.
Yeah, Paul Rudd's in it as Mondo Gecko.
Mondo Gecko. So Mikey and Mondo were my brother's ultimate favorites. So as soon as he watched it, I was just like, how geeked were you when Mondo and Mikey were just riffing and getting along so well? I was just like, dude, it was the best part. It was the best part. I was like, oh, come on.
Really? Yeah, I know.
All right. Before we dip out, last thing I want to do is, would you try it? Right? Pizza edition. Right? So the Ninja Turtles, Ninja Turtles are big pizza heads, right? Obviously. That's actually the food question. That's one of April O'Neil's questions about pizza. I think she asks like what their, or in the notebook is, she's like, what's your favorite what's a good pizza spot, right, in New York? But they're known to try crazy pizzas in the cartoons, and so I'll give you some and you'll tell me if you would try it or not. Ready?
Sounds good.
Go.
Oreos and French fries pizza a la Mr. Deeds.
Yes. Yeah, I would try that.
Oreos and French fries.
That would.
Yeah,
I mean, I like putting my fries in McFlurries, so I feel like putting it on pizza is not that far.
I would try it.
Okay, so we got one. You'll try that one. Would you try this is from the cartoons. Would you try a peanut butter clam pizza?
No.
The clam throws me off. I don't know if that would be good, man.
That's a no for me, dog.
Would you try a marshmallow and pepperoni pizza?
Yes.
Yes.
Would you try, let's see, I'm just going to come up with concoctions in my head now. Would you try a steak and Nutella pizza?
Oh, Nutella kind of throws me off, but because I'm not a fan of Nutella, but steak, I would do it.
I'm thinking almost mole. I got one for you guys that they tried. The cast tried. Peanut butter jelly and sushi pizza.
No.
Ugh,
No.
that's gross. What about chicken, gummy bears, and Chick-fil-A sauce?
No.
I hate that. That's just a no. Oh my.
I got one for you guys. What about pepperoni, pineapple, pepperoni, pineapple, and jalapenos?
Oh, easy yes. Easy yes.
That's the JC special, baby. What you talking about, bro? Sweet, salty, spicy. What? There's no better pizza, bro. No better
Yes,
pizza.
I
pineapple
hear it's
on the pizza.
fantastic too. I know people that order that on the regular.
That's the reason why Jason's calling it out. That's what I call the J. There's two JC specials. JC special number one is what Jason just said: pineapple, pepperoni, and jalapenos. Sorry, boys, my eyes are watering all of a sudden. I'm crying because of how good this movie is. And then the JC special number two is 2 large pizzas.
So like any pizza place.
Right, you know.
And I got one for you guys. She asks in the movie, do you guys eat pizza for breakfast? And Mikey immediately is like, actually, I just had a pizza with waffle bits on it. Would you do a pizza with waffle bits on it?
And
That would sound good.
yeah.
That would sound good.
That did.
Oh, I had a street corn pizza once. That shit was fire.
That sounds fire. Yeah.
Yo, that was in Phoenix just recently. I think you hit me up and told me about that.
Yes, sir. It was in Strawberry, Arizona, where we had.
There you go. When you were on the you and your girl went to that place.
Yeah.
You told me about that.
Yeah, I recommend it. I tried this baked potato pizza too. Really good.
That one sounds like it might be pretty good, actually.
Like with bacon bits, some green onions,
The whole shebang, bro. It's like a baked potato. Yeah.
What about a tomahawk pizza? It's got the bone and then the crust is on the underneath of the steak, bro, and you put a little slight A1 on it.
I mean, I'm always down for steak, so I would say yes.
I don't know. I just had a tomahawk. That's why it popped in my head.
All right, boys, let's wrap it up here. And do you guys have any shout outs, starting with Jason?
Yeah, man, just shout out to everyone returning to school. So shout out to my nephews and nieces that started school. Good luck, Luigi. Hopefully you like your students this year. Hopefully they're not stressful. And J-Man, I will see you later on this month, man.
Yes, sir. Should be like 2 weeks.
2 weeks from now? Yeah. I'm excited
so.
to get out of this heat.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Dude, it was hot today. I couldn't imagine where you're at, bro.
I saw next Wednesday is going to be 119 the high. So, yeah.
Hide your kids, hide your wife, bro.
Yeah, I'm staying.
No, thank you. We were out there although that time we spent on the river, it didn't get there, but by the end of the day, it was 117. So
water was nice.
Jermaine, you got any shout outs?
Shout out IDW, current printers of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles line. Shout out Old Hob, one of the main villains that came out of the IDW line. It's a cat with the eye patch, and he's he's one of the people that jeopardized Jenica to create her.
Oh, snap. Okay.
What about you, Luigi?
No shout outs, just shout out to our supporters. Shout out to Gabby, as always. That's all for me, guys. Cowabunga. You know what I'm saying? We love you guys. We appreciate you. And we'll see you guys next week for another episode of Revenge of the Pod. Peace out, guys.
Cowabunga!